And here we are. Hello, everyone.
It's us. I can see us.
Oh, we're
on
inside
the
of little
computer.
tokens. Oh my gosh, this is cute as heck.
I
They're
told
so
you.
cute.
So welcome to virtual GMing on Roll20.
It's
And
us,
everyone
it's
who's taking
us.
time out of your Gen Con schedule to come hang out with us, thank you. It's very exciting considering Gen Con came to us this year. As much as we miss Indianapolis, and a few people on my team are super miss the St. Elmo's Steakhouse. Really miss it. Like, they talk about it all the time. But yeah, so I'm Bunny. I'm community manager for Roll20, and I have some amazing people with me today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And so I'm Bunny. I'm she, her. And I got the pleasure of putting these people together. I'm going to have them go around and introduce themselves, give their name, pronouns, and they are also going to talk about their first time GMing, like very first time. Very, very first, like baby GM time. But yeah, we're going to go over some different topics of like challenges, tips and tricks for virtual GMing. And, you know, if we get any good chat questions, maybe I'll answer. No. We'll try. We'll try to get some.
Ooh, gauntlet thrown down.
Existential
Good chat
questions only.
So yeah, so TK, why don't you start?
Okay, I gotta scoot away from the desk real quick. One sec, because we said I was gonna be dramatic.
Yes. So we'll do it again. All right,
It's
TK.
me. No, it's too late. I already wasted the energy, and I don't know if my chair is gonna turn the same way again. Okay, I'm coming back. It's me, TK. I use they them. I'm a dungeon master and game master, and I write stuff, especially spooky stories. Hang out on the internet. Go to my website. I drank like 3 Mountain Dews today.
And spilled some on your
And
face.
you're just I was gonna say, does that count the pants one? Or
What was your first time
Yes,
GMing, TK?
Some Mountain
My
Dew.
first time GMing was at my home 2 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've been GMing for about 2 years. And we were going to just do a series of one shots where they were all members of the military of this homebrew army, but then they liked their characters too much and they wanted to come over to my house every week, and I had to keep cooking dinner and having people over. And that's what happened.
Wait, you cooked and you GM'd? That doesn't seem
Yeah,
fair.
that's wrong.
Wow, that's
No,
awesome.
because
Not
if I
contract.
don't, no, you don't understand. If I don't cook, then it was a bad time, because like I had the types of players who were family members for the most part that like we'd be like, "Hey, are you gonna bring drinks?" And they would bring like a 2 liter of root beer.
Yeah, that's it.
Like,
Yeah.
neat. Or they'd bring like their own Starbucks. It's just like cool. Plus, if I fed them, they were more likely to pay attention during the game.
Oh,
True. Yeah.
fair. All right, hey B, your turn.
Hello. So what's up? My name is B. You can find me on Twitter as @B_Zelda. My pronouns are they, them. I do stuff. I do podcast stuff. I'm like just a small podcast you might have heard called The Broadswords. I stream just tiny. I stream on Twitch every now and then, mostly on everybody other's channel. But we do have a channel on the Broadswords. I'm a professional GM with Magpie Games. If you want to join my table, come hang out. Do I have to answer the part about my first game? Because
Yes.
like heck.
Yes.
The law.
I warned you all.
I know. My first game, so 2 years ago as well. It was Monster of the Week, actually. And it was just like a group of my friends. We did it online. I've primarily been like an online GM and player most of my life. And it went okay. I had a bunch of people that were. I learned a lot after my first experience. You know, you learn about player dynamics and you learn about safety tools really quickly.
Uh-oh.
It ended up being positive after a conversation, but you know, it was growth for everybody. And like, heck, first time GMing, scary.
Probably, yeah. Hey Celeste, how about you?
Hey, everybody. My name is Celeste Conowich. I am a streamer, podcaster, designer out there in the world of RPGs. I do a podcast called Venture Maidens, which is an actual play D&D podcast that streams alternating Wednesdays. And then right here on Roll20, I am the GM for our Burn Bright stream, where we're playing through Burning Daylight, which is the first ever module written for a brand new game called Burn Bright that you all really should check out if you like science or fantasy or the combination. It's very cool and special. So there's that. You can see the full catalog of everything I'm writing and publishing and streaming on my website, celesteconowich.com. And also, make sure to follow me on Twitter at @cconowich, where I talk about the haps. Let's see, my first time GMing. I've been GMing 14 or 15 years. I've been running games, and I believe I just remember, I'm not sure if this was exactly my first time running a game, but it was a game of Dungeons and Dragons, and I just remember it being so traumatizing because I didn't understand what how to not railroad things, and it was just this horrible game. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put it together, have this this world that's full of these awesome things and whatever. And I remember my players just quitting after an hour, and they're like, this is lame, this is not how. I was like, oh no. So I frequently talk about wishing I could go back in time and find those people and run a game for them now, because I have 15 years of experience. I've been training for this moment to go back. So there you go. That's my legacy. Hey everybody, I'm stoked to be here.
Hey Gabe, your turn.
Hi, I'm Gabe James Games on Twitch, Twitter, pretty much any social media. I am a game designer, writer, cosplayer, voice actor. I do a lot because it keeps me busy, and then I'm happy and I have money because I like to eat. I use he, him pronouns, and my first time GMing was, I think, 9 years ago. And I was playing with a group of players who had played, I think it was D&D, and they played more than I had. And the first thing they did was take out all of the archers, because all of the people inside of the fort I made were just footmen with swords and shields. And 2 of the players could fly, so they literally just flew around just shooting at them. Oh, it was really messed up. It was hilarious for me, but I was like, wow, I did not plan that out at all.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I learned very quickly. Everyone had hand crossbows after that.
Nice. And Dave, how about you?
Hello, I'm Dave_human, and I do one thing exactly, and it is on the D&D channel doing a show for these people, Roll20, and it's, people tell me that it's pretty okay. I don't really believe them, but whatever.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt you because people have not said it's pretty okay. People love it. So, yeah.
Okay, I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. That's fine. I use they, them pronouns as well. And my first time GMing, I was just looking up when it would kind of have been. So I think it was 2003, so 17 years ago.
Oh my word.
And I remember that it was 3rd edition D&D, and it was people at my house. And I remember that the set piece was based on that secret ending FMV thing from Kingdom Hearts 1 with all the big towers and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's all I remember about it. But
that is so on brand
cool.
for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
Dave,
cool.
we're gonna get along. I have a lot of kids like that.
Oh yeah, no. Show's gonna devolve. We could just talk about other games, right? Yeah, so all of you have been GMing for various lengths of time, but what got you started on Roll20? How did you start GMing virtually? And how about we start with B this time?
I have always been GMing virtually.
Woo! That's easy.
I mean, that is the truest answer, and that it just became. I think I kind of had the experience a lot of folks had, where I started with Roll20, got so overwhelmed that I dropped it, and then somebody else brought me back into it, and they were just like, "No, all you have to do is click this." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't want to click anything." But since then, virtual GMing has been my go-to because I love visual aids and I love virtual dice.
That noise that it makes is very
Clickety
satisfying.
clack.
Yep. And Celeste, how about you?
Yeah, so before I started Venture Maidens 5 years ago, I was exclusively like a pen and paper, like in-person GM. I didn't really understand that there was other ways to do it. But when that happened, as a podcast, basically it was because a bunch of my friends that I played with, we were all kind of moving away, like jobs were ending, just people were going other places. So I was like, man, I need to find a way to keep this game going because I need to keep playing with these people. So that's when the first time I started, learning about virtual tabletops and learning about conferencing calls and software and, things like Zoom and Google Hangouts. So that was the first like impetus to really take the dive into the world of virtual GMing. And honestly, since then, I've just gotten more and more in love with it and involved in it because it's so great when you can have a game night and, you play with your friends for 2 hours. Then you don't have to drive home later when you're tired and, you've had a couple drinks. It's an awesome way to play with your friends in a really accessible and great way, especially because adults are just so busy all the time. Taking time to use these virtual tools was just so great. And for Roll20, I actually had only ever been a player in Roll20 games until the last month. I started, GMing for Burn Bright, and so that was the first time I was like put in the GM seat, and actually had to learn the table from that back end. So I'm pretty new in terms of GMing on Roll20, but I've had the super great benefit of, because Burn Bright was designed specifically for Roll20. So everything is integrated so nicely and it's so easy to use and find things. I feel like I was really, really spoiled in getting to learn Roll20. So that's been my experience so far.
Nice. Gabe, how about you? How'd you start virtual GMing?
I had a bunch of stories and ideas in my head, and I'm like, I can't draw. So even if I have a dry erase map, I can't draw, or it's really hard for me to do it. And I love the hobby, and it's also very expensive. And because of that, it's like, okay, I have all of these things that I want to do and all these ideas I want to put together, but I have maybe like $20 that I can spend, and that's probably going to end up me spending money on like dice for the people that don't have them or something. Like I've been using Roll20 since 2014.
Nice.
And I did not have money to buy a whole bunch of maps and miniatures and books for it. But there's a whole bunch of free online resources of maps that people make that you can use. And I'm like, I can literally like I could use a Patreon where they make maps for like $5 a month, and then I can put those into Roll20 and just keep doing it, and then everyone can see it. And I can even use Roll20 now to like change the lighting and stuff. And I'm like, this literally makes everything that I couldn't afford, didn't feel like I had the creative like time or energy to do. And it's like setting it up and tearing it down is opening a web page, which is great. It's amazing having the stuff in front of me, but if I can be like, and here's the mountain, click, and it's done, and they're like, oh, you're back at the town, click. I love that so much.
Nice. Dave, how about you?
I kind of feel like I'm doing that thing where I just reference all the video games that everybody knows that I like, but it was my Final Fantasy XIV guild. And obviously we couldn't play in person. We were used to playing video games with each other online. So when somebody talked about playing some D&D, looking around, we found Roll20 that way. And that was great. I seem to remember it was like, might have been Pathfinder actually, because I wanted to impress everybody and make the most broken character I could. I ended up like with a level 2 alchemist with 40 intelligence. It was great. It was a good time.
Yeah.
And because we were doing it virtually, I could cheat and hide my character sheet from everybody else, and the GM didn't know the system, so it was fine. It was great.
Were you a Pathfinder player?
Yeah, I
have played with somebody like you, and dang. So much confusion.
Well, that was a while ago. But, yeah.
TK, how did you start virtual GMing?
So, I didn't get into 5th edition. I was raised on Dungeons and Dragons, but it was 2E. And then I didn't get back into Dungeons and Dragons until about 3 years ago. When I quit my job in a fit of rage. It was not a steep learning curve, because luckily there are people online that are more than happy to tell you when you're doing things incorrectly. But I started GMing 2 years ago, and then ran my first virtual game 1 year ago. And that was when I started Tales from the Mists. And we did mostly Theater of the Mind, because I live in an area that is very anti-Dungeons and Dragons. So I didn't know a lot of the culture and things like that. So Theater of the Mind was kind of what I had to do, because I wasn't really sure like where I could get like maps or tiles or anything like that. Later, I was able to go to conventions and things like that. And I started GMing on Roll20 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Because our group was like, hey, we want to pitch a show to Roll20. TK, you want to DM? And I was like, yes, I can DM. And they were like, you'll have to do it on Roll20. And I was like, I can do that. Also, I just accepted a job with them in their customer service, so guess I'll be practicing this on my spare
It works out well.
So I was very incentivized to do it quickly and well.
You have been rocking at it. You and Dave have been doing such a good job, and it's been so fun to watch you too.
Thank you. Please add that to my performance
do not
review.
look
I
at-
appreciate that.
I will if you want, but do not give me that
Really?
look, Dave. Yeah, you can do peer reviews. It's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Well, look, I didn't do nothing.
So what have you found to be the most useful tool on the VTT? Like what tool has been the most useful for you? Which one do you like never touch? Let's start with Celeste this time.
Yeah. So for me, what I love the initiative tracker feature. It is just so, because my brain has a very hard time just keeping track of like all the different moving pieces. So that has sort of forced me when GMing to limit the number of enemies like going, or group people together in certain ways. But actually having on Roll20 this awesome tool where I can like plug in, everybody who's going to be taking a turn this time, and then lots of places that I can just type in extra numbers. So like for Burn Bright, there's this whole system about collapse points and advantages. And what's great is I just throw them all in the tracker, and it all like exists right there. And I can literally, drag when people roll initiative each turn, or, decide their turns, I can just drag and put them in there. So all of the drama of like erasing a whiteboard or using like initiative flags, or, all of those like tricks that you have to do to make, combat roll along quickly, or turns roll along quickly. It's all built right in there. So I'm desperately in love with the initiative tracker. My favorite thing is that in character sheets that you can just click on things and it rolls it right there. Because, typing in / commands, I've never been very good at that, because that kind of stuff just falls out of my brain. So when you have those character sheets and you can just, do those native clicks in there, it's just chef kiss, just joy for me. So those are probably my two favorite things to use in Roll20.
Nice. Hey Gabe, how about for you? What tools are very useful for you, and are there any that you're just like, eh?
So I think the ability to make macros is actually really useful to me, especially as someone. So one of the things I've been working on is a system of my own, and it's really hard to just test certain things without having like a predefined character sheet and everything. But if I make macros inside of Roll20 for how I want things to do, it's really easy to be like, all right, well, how does this one work against this? How does this work against this? And it's so easy to change it, because like if you it's almost like a coding language, but one that's more focused around like social media conversation. So it's almost natural, like \me for how someone is responding, and then like \roll, and then how many d6s. And it's also super flexible because I'd be like, this one's 2d8, this one's 3d6, this one's 52d10. And it's a huge like number, but it works. And it took me some time to understand how it worked, but it didn't feel like it was impossible to figure it out, which was the nice thing. It was like, okay, I just have to understand the basics of this. Now that I understand the basics, I have like a Roll20 channel of my own that's literally just for me testing my game stuff, that's got so many character sheets in it, but all with like different little homemade macros. And it's like been like a godsend.
Nice. I've never heard anyone describe macros as natural before. That's
Right?
awesome.
That was beautiful.
That's
Normally I hear
great.
like Celeste's version of macros, which is where I'm at.
Yeah,
Oh no.
we have all different types represented here.
That is why. Yes, for people asking in chat, I'm going to make sure that links to all of the help articles and stuff for these different topics are in the VOD description too. So if later you want to kind of check that out, you'll be able to kind of go to a
Wait.
direct link.
Are there help topics about macros?
Yes.
Oh yeah, there's
Sort
help
of.
talks about
I
everything.
just forced
I
this.
love that
Kind of.
page.
Yes,
A
DK.
bit.
You are
muted.
TK. Wouldn't be a stream without them being muted.
I mean, this is a great mime, but
Am I still muted?
No.
No, we can hear you now.
Awesome. Tag me in. I'm
you want to get
losing
tagged
it,
in?
like, extrovert losing it. I'm okay. I just keep hitting the mute button on my Yeti. So.
That's cool. You're fidgeting. I get it.
Cool.
Well, do you want to tag in? I mean,
Yes.
Dave was gonna go next, but yeah, go for it.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Dave, go ahead. No, Dave, go ahead.
No, I refuse.
This actually feels worse to me now.
Oh, no. No.
Because I kind of
Okay.
feel like I steamrolled you. So
If you have a particular thing, you seem like you're on it, like topic wise. So if you want to keep
Oh,
going off what
cool.
Gabe said, go for it.
I started DMing on Roll20 2 months ago. The first thing I typed in was must-have macros for Roll20, and immediately copy pasted those into my rollable tables and into my macros, and then moved those macros down to the macro toolbar. And then you could just click them anytime, which is great. But I also moved all of the monsters' attacks and spells and stuff to the toolbars too before fights, so I could just.
It is really fun to watch you do combat because, like, I
Thank
love seeing the things pop
you.
up. It's very fun. So
Thank you. The first thing I would probably tell anybody that you like need a must-have macro for is skill checks. 100%. And you can find, I believe I found them on the D&D Next Reddit. And there was one community forum that had a great list of those things. But must-have macros for Roll20 was pretty much the search term I used, and that's where I got all my macros, and they work great.
I'm gonna have to do that.
Dave, how about you? What tools are the most useful for you? And are there any that you're like, meh?
The most useful tool for me, I think, because I really love explaining how to use it over and over again, is the measuring tool once you have a token selected, so you can go around corners and stuff. I love it, and I love explaining it to every player individually in every campaign I've ever been in. I'm on 20.
It's so good.
It is
Well,
really fun to do. I used to be a theater mind person, so it was like, oh, you can measure things. That's really fun.
Yeah, but kind of a bit more seriously, I think it's dynamic lighting. The moment that I first used dynamic lighting, when it got put in, I was a player then, so I got to experience like the cool part of it, where I was moving my little token one at a time with the keyboard, walked around the corner and saw like a monster's token, and I was like, oh, they were hiding there. That was fantastic, and a lot of players still get that experience because lots of people swapping over at the moment from their in-person games, and every time you can give someone that experience, I think is fantastic. So that's kind of the tool that I use the most and my favorite one.
Awesome. Yeah, dynamic lighting can be really fun. So for what do you think is the most challenging aspect of jamming online? When you're like jamming remotely, you're not in the same room. Let's start with Gabe.
Can I tell you what my favorite thing about Roll20 is?
Oh, I'm so
though?
sorry, B. Oh my word. No. Yes, please. Ignore me.
I don't mind jumping in either, so you good.
Yeah. Y'all are gonna have to.
It's impossible to
I've
step
been
on
up
my toes.
super early, so you're gonna have to like kick me. It's cool.
You're good. Because I have the most unpopular favorite for Roll20. It's like the most unused thing that I take advantage of with every single one of my games, and it's music.
Yeah.
Because I run a lot of streams where like I have Roll20 being displayed, I need to have music that is royalty free. So Kevin MacLeod stuff, 10 out of 10, and it's always wonderful. I can always find the right kind of like spooky battle, forest, water, cemetery kind of genre-esque music, and it has never failed me. So I would love to kind of gush about that, because if you play in one of my games, it is an orchestra happening around your ears.
It is true. I mean, they could tell by watching the Saturday morning fake game that you ran, because you use music in that.
Yes.
Yeah. No, your music
advantage.
game is like A+. Oh,
Thank
so
you.
good. Yeah.
Weird ask. Kevin MacLeod. Does anyone ever not think of Star Fox when you hear that name?
Not anymore.
Oh, dang. I didn't until now.
I mean, it's not quite right.
No, it's close enough.
Don't at me, people. I know. Yeah.
In the beginning, though. Yeah.
Don't at Dave. At me. I'll fight you.
Sounds good.
TK
Yeah.
they have a sword, so they will. In chat, in Twitch.
Oh, I was like, how did you?
Waiting
How did you know
for
that?
I mean, I
TK
can
to
give
just,
you
like,
one. I've got a few.
pull up a sword. Yes.
So yes, let's pretend that I hadn't accidentally skipped B. Sorry. Gabe, what's the most challenging aspect of jamming remotely for you?
Just making sure that it's gonna sound, it's one of those things, it sounds less complicated than it is, but it is still complicated. Making sure there's enough time in between or breaks for people that need to get up and move. Because even if you're playing at a show or a home game, if you were playing in person, it's very easy to like get up, stretch from the table, do whatever you want. But like if you're playing remotely and you have on headphones, it might be hard for the person to like stand up, still be able to listen, see what's going on, or like respond aptly. And it's for me been finding a good amount of action and then downtime in between, so that if someone's like, you know what, actually, like I'm just gonna like take a minute to go walk around, they can feel comfortable to do that, because all the people are doing are talking to the strange person on a stump. And if something happens, they know that we'll tell them when they come back, but they're not going to feel like they're missing something if they move at all.
That's a yeah. Wouldn't have thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
Now there's no excuse, because when the app's done and it's on mobile, you should be like, take the tablet into the bathroom.
And
no breaks.
Your phone.
I actually love that idea, because then even if you can't hear anything, like if you're talking for like whatever photo app you're using, like if I can still see what's happening on the map and I'm getting a drink from the fridge and then I see someone going around the corner, there's a Minotaur, I'm like, okay, that's a problem, but now I know what's happening.
I'm very excited for things coming down that I'm not going to talk about. So Dave, on that note, what's the most challenging thing for you jamming remotely?
I think it's not so much for some of my players. I think it's a problem, but for me, it's paying attention when you have 3 monitors and only one of them is the Roll20 monitor. But I think there's something to be said about attention in general when you're playing online, because it's a lot harder to gauge how much people are paying attention especially if you're not using webcams, because some groups, sometimes it's nice to not do webcams because, like, for me, it makes it a bit more stressful. But when that's the case, it's very hard to kind of gauge people's emotion or reactions to things as well. So I think that's probably one of the hardest things for me about GMing online. Just not necessarily being able to get all the kind of feedback that you can from body language generally when you're in person, especially when you overanalyze it so much. You need all that information, otherwise you have to confirm how everybody's feeling every 10 minutes. But yeah.
Do you have anything that you've kind of come up with to like mitigate that? It's okay if no. I did not mean to put you on the spot.
No,
but like any of you actually, like for
Yeah,
both
I deal
the
with that a
stretching
lot.
yeah.
Sorry, Dave. Go ahead, though.
I was just going to say, it's, for me, it's about building up a tone profile of people's voices and paying extra attention to the way in which they're speaking, because you can still do the gauging engagement type thing with that, but it just means that you've got to know somebody a little bit better and spend a bit more time with them. So yeah, make sure you're wearing headphones, I think, is the thing to get that clarity. And also, it's generally, if you don't have a professional setup that allows you to listen to audio without headphones on, you get a lot of people who don't turn off microphones and have a lot of background noise going on, and that's a different problem. I'm going too far on that one. It's maybe a pet peeve. Mic discipline. It's back in raiding days. No extra chatter, because I might need to call out a mechanic, and you better shut up.
It's true.
Sorry.
No, it's true. I used to raid a lot too, so. B, did you have something to add to that? Yeah.
Yeah, so I run a lot of games for strangers. And I run like Bluebeard's Bride, for example. Like, I categorize it like a feminist horror. So it can deal with a lot of really intense things. So a lot of people, like, visual aids are really important for me. I need to be able to see your face. But that's not always, like, people don't always want that. And I'm always willing to respect it. But then you have to consider, like you said, tone profile. If I can see your face, I don't know you, so I don't know what your scared face is. But I'm still trying to keep all of that in mind. But what I found to be the absolute best thing is, after a scene, do a check-in. How's everybody feeling? How is everybody doing? I have like visual aids. I love colors. So, like, if things are bad, show me something red. If things are great, show me something green. If things are so-so, give me that yellow and we'll chat. But just like ways to kind of passively communicate with your players, especially when you don't know them, has been a game changer for me personally.
Yeah, to build on that, I think, if I can jump back in for a second, making clear, even if it's not a visual aid type, making sure that you have methods of speaking to each other outside of necessarily the app.
Yes.
So you can talk to maybe the GM privately in case anything is kind of happening. You can't always rely on that, but I think having that there as a bit of a safety net is really important. And yeah, making sure you tell your players, like, I have the Zoom window open as well, so if you need to message me, that's the easiest place.
Public chat and private chat.
Yeah, for sure.
TK, how about for you? You know, what do you find most challenging about GMing remotely?
I think the most difficult thing for me about GMing remotely is that I am an improvisational DM. And so anything that requires me to set up a fight or a map or something like that ahead of time, I have to either over prepare or I have to put it together in the 5 minutes of break that we take in the middle of our show. We'll be like, okay, before we get into that, haha, cliffhanger, and then everybody goes to the bathroom, and I throw like a picture on there, and are going like, okay, in this area we probably have these types of monsters, and then do, and
so
have
now we know what you're
everything,
really
like,
doing then. Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. And anybody, if you go back and watch the VODs, watch the chat on the side where it's like I go into the art library or something while they're chatting and stuff like that. Because I'm sitting there like whoring up resources and building a map secretly on another screen. Because I'll have like my Chromebook on the side, so I'll build another map while they're talking. So I think it's because most virtual tabletops do demand a certain degree of preparedness ahead of time. So as an improv GM, that can be a little frustrating. As well, right now I'm doing a comedy show. And so for this comedy show, because we constantly dunk on each other on screen, it's hard to like see, like, are you rolling with the joke, or are you just, do you want this conversation over with? So I will constantly interrupt bits, even if they're funny, to ask for enthusiastic consent, because if it's not enthusiastic consent, then it's a no.
Very true.
It makes me not very funny, but that's okay. I'm not there to be funny.
I think fun is most fun had when it's everyone having fun.
Oh yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, I think that I think you're still funny.
Tell that to the YouTube comments.
I do, actually. Or I delete them.
Yes.
You don't have YouTube block?
What?
I wouldn't be able to live without the extensions that block YouTube
Oh
comments.
yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Celeste, how about you? What's the most challenging thing for jamming remotely?
Yeah, so I think something that I've found since starting to use these online platforms about 5 years ago, because I do a lot of streaming for audiences and recording in front of audiences, but I also run private games too over tabletop. So when you are running these games, frequently when you're online, the games do have to be shorter. They have to be more compact because people can only sit for so long in a computer chair. I mean, I deal with back issues. I can only be in a computer chair for like 2 hours before I get the seat. So, running games that are shorter and more compact and more meaningful in that shorter amount of time has been something I've had to cultivate as a skill, definitely in moving to a virtual space. Because when you're playing with your friends, you can meet that once a month on Sundays. You can spend 4 or 5 hours. You can have like a meal in the middle. You can make it more organic. But really, when you only have 2 hours to play every other week on the virtual tabletop, you have to get that pacing up. You have to have tight games where there's not a lot of downtime, and there's not so much room for just talking about whatever, or it's, so it definitely does put some pressure on you as a GM to really run the story along, to move the plot along, to keep the action going, and that is something that you certainly do learn with practice and with time, but it is something that is required to run successful online games, because people need to walk away feeling like they had a meaningful experience, the same way they would with a longer game. So packing those cliffhangers in, packing those interesting encounters, packing those character moments, and having the space for role play and action is definitely a difficult skill to run. And I think more now that everyone out there is using virtual tabletops and running these games, this will be something that is influential in our culture of storytelling. Really keeping the action rolling along and making those games work and be meaningful is a challenge, but it's going to be something more prevalent that we're dealing with.
To kind of build off of that, what are do you have any tips or tricks of kind of checking in on player engagement, player well-being? I know TK mentioned a few as well, but just kind of any tips that you have of checking in, especially in the moment and like during an actual game session, of kind of making sure that people are, that it's going well for your players? Like, what are your tips? Dave, let's start with you.
I knew we were going to rotate around, but I didn't have long enough to think about it.
Sorry. I mean, Gabe's pointed at it himself.
Okay,
You could go,
perfect.
yeah, go for it, Gabe.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for saving me.
Especially with being online, instead of always asking directly, I will DM players because I know that there's the concern of like when someone publicly asks, is everyone doing all right? The worry that like if 3 people say yes, I don't want to say yes. So if you ask them privately, for all they know, it could literally just be that, you know, everyone else said they wanted to pass too. And then there's more of a sense of comfort because it's like, well, you know what? I might not have been the only one that wanted to stop. Or it's like, okay, it was okay that I had that hesitation because maybe someone else didn't feel comfortable. But if I'm like, hey, do you want to continue this or do you want to pass it? And if I get like a yes, 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 no, it's very.
I didn't understand.
Stop it, Google. It's very easy to just wrap it up, but then not put the pressure on them of having to do it like in a situation where if everyone else is okay with it, they don't go along with it because they want to. They go along with it because they don't want to ruin everyone else's fun, which we're all there to have fun, but it's really hard to put your own needs equal to other people's sometimes.
Yeah, I guess I understand that. Dave.
I can add something really quickly.
Oh no, go for it. Yeah,
That
you
gives
can go
Dave
out of
some
order.
more time to think.
We can go out of order. Go for it. Works for me.
So just to add to that, so like I love doing public check-ins, but like I respect the the need for private check-ins. And I am a resource of safety tools. So for this, the X, N, and O tool is absolutely fantastic. X, no, N. Oh God, did I get it wrong? I always got this wrong. Let me type it out. Sorry. X, N, O. O are my check-ins. I really only ever do O's. I have to relook at my
Here you
notes.
go, TK. TK has visual aids for you.
Oh, you're beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Oh, did you make those or did you buy them?
I made these. What I have I have an elastic turban that I sleep in, and so I just cut the card in half, and then I got some black paint. That's why they look like they were painted by a serial killer.
That's the
but
mood
a
that
serial
I love.
killer who thinks about you and wants you to be comfortable in your last
exactly.
moments.
That's beautiful.
Gabe
Private
doesn't look
chat
convinced.
check-ins.
I'm going to show you my teeth dice later, Gabe. Wait, did I already show you?
No, I've already met someone who told me about a whole teeth necklace thing they had with their friends. Gabe mess with teeth.
So Dave, what?
Just gonna see how far back this chair leans and stays in focus.
We got a whole ocean between us, Dave. You'll be okay.
No, totally cool.
I'm not risking the Rona on a plane to come and get you.
Yeah, for sure. No, that seems very sensible. I think, yeah, having those safety tools kind of established beforehand are fantastic. Sometimes it's an awkward conversation because still, I think the prevailing mood around D&D and the prevailing audience is what now dudes who don't want to talk about anything that might be doing feelings. Mm-hmm. So obviously bringing up things that are called safety tools to them is always a bit of a challenge, but you can't not have them, really. It would, if there was a situation where I was GMing where there should have been some, but there weren't, I would like quit GMing forever. So having that talk at the beginning is probably the most important part, and re-upping it as well, both in public and private. I tend to find I have to reach out a lot more to people in my groups to be like, kind of, were you okay, to prompt people, and also being almost leading from the front and offering any lines and veils first, so that there are some on the table, so other people feel more welcome to add their own. So I'll always do that first, and I'll always make sure I'm the first one to be like, yeah, these are the things that I would use this for. So, for example, XYZ. Does anyone have any else? Is a lot more successful generally than. So here are these things. Does anyone have anything they'd like to put on the table? So, yeah, a bit rambly, but yeah, I think that's most of the things.
TK, did you have anything to add to things for checking in on engagement and, just your players in general?
Yes, I do. Sorry, I'm.
That Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I will do a survey ahead of time just to check and make sure that everybody's lines and veils are available and known. And I also have a handout for my players in the journal so that they can see what's there, and they all have editing power so they can add anything new. We decompress after episodes or after sessions, and just sit and talk about what we liked, what we didn't like. We do a lot of stars and wishes. We do roses and thorns. Stars and wishes being things that we want to see, things that could be improved. Roses and thorns being things that we really loved and things that we loved less. We will use the red, yellow, green safety system. Though we typically will just say the colors. We don't typically hold up things, mostly because I have a lot of trouble concentrating on different windows. So it's hard for me to know if your pen just happens to be red or if you're having a terrible time.
Valid.
And we also have macros to whisper to the GM. And if anybody wants to see those, I could probably share the macros that I use on Twitter, because I'm pretty sure I got them from Twitter. So and they could just whisper them to the GM. The chat that people will typically see is mine on stream, so whispering macros to the GM is not super helpful if you want to be more quiet about it. So usually they can just whisper me in Zoom or Discord as well, because I'll have different screens and windows up and stuff. Luckily, Carlos handles all of the production, because otherwise it would be a disaster. And then, of course, I use my safety cards. Anytime that I am initiating a safety check-in, I will always use my cards on screen so that people in the chat become normalized to them, and know that, yes, this is a person who is employed by like D&D or Roll20 that is using these, and you can too. It's not weird. Do it.
I actually, if you have not seen TK do this, you should definitely check out some VODs, because they will do it and they will insist that their players actually respond before moving on.
Yeah.
Which is what you're supposed to do, but still.
Yeah, like, and the thing is that we all not only went through, first of all, I only play with my friends, and that's not to say that I'm like exclusive. It's to say that by the time we have finished talking about things like we talk about I forgot what I was saying. We talk about love languages and things like that. Like, how do you want to talk about this? Are you okay with answering in front of other people? Blah, blah, blah. And communication stuff. And so by the time we've gone through all of that, we're pretty close friends. So there's usually not a case where somebody's going to be like, oh, I'm offended by orcs. I don't want any orcs in this game. And actually that's kind of a valid thing, but that was mostly to say that there's never going to be a point where somebody's going to be like, I don't want to do any combat or something like that, or be what would generally be thought of as like unreasonable, because we've already talked about everything. And when you know where the boundaries are, it's easier to know what you can do.
Set those expectations up at the beginning of your game. What do you want out of this? Here's what you're going to get out of it. And then that helps when you also talk about those safety tools, because you already have that baseline for what your players are anticipating.
Celeste, do you have anything else to kind of add for checking in on engagement? And
Yeah, so just as a general point, whenever I have a game, I do insist that, like, I like to use Zoom personally, and I insist that everybody keeps the Zoom group chat up as a way so I can communicate and see, or, also ask the X and O. That's the system I use as well in the Zoom chat. So I make a big deal out of it. I make sure that everybody chats into it and, like, acknowledges that they can see it and it's open for whatever game we're doing, just so we have that stream of communication. Because on there, you can whisper to the DM or to specific players. I also always encourage my players to have a chat together that doesn't include me as the GM, so they feel like they have a space they can plot or share, or like get excited
idea.
about the game, because it's sort of fun sometimes, when your players band together and they're like, we're taking on the world and we're against the GM. It's like it gives them a sense of camaraderie and safety, because they have each other, like, as a unit. So I always, make sure if we have like a Discord chat or server or whatever, they have the chat that I am not a part of, so that they can, enjoy each other and support each other as players and really get that camaraderie. So, they also, of course, have the channel with me in it. So if they have questions or concerns, but yeah, I really love setting those up, just so they can engage with each other, off screen, and feel like they're plotting and having fun. Because that's really how you can see engagement, if they're constantly coming up with stuff and, building each other backstories with each other. And that's a great indication that you're running a good game and having a good time, and they're all becoming better friends, and it's just so magical watching that happen. So I highly recommend setting up systems like that, and ways for your players to work and chat with each other. That maybe sometimes doesn't include you as the GM, but that's okay. So having those in place would be my big thing.
Nice. So before we kind of do wrap up and stuff, I would love to hear from each of you, like the one piece of advice you would give to someone starting off virtual GMing, whether they're a veteran GM or new GM. Like, what is like the one very first thing you wish that they would know?
Can I go first?
Parent, sure.
Because this is what would have helped me. Just ask for help. Don't stubbornly assume you can do it all and like aggressively research everything, because there's so much information that sometimes just having somebody who can like gently guide you through the things that you specifically need until you are ready to explore everything else that virtual GMing requires, it would have honestly saved me a lot of stress and maybe angry tears. So just ask for help. There's so many folks in the community that would love to see you succeed. And like, I love virtual GMing, so like, I'll help you.
Nice. Anybody? You all can just have at whoever wants to. Yeah,
Oh
go
my
over game.
If you're setting something up for your players and setting it up is getting you frustrated, chances are they probably don't care about it that much. Like, I might want the most intense dynamic lighting in this cave, and then I might just be like, y'all, it's frustrating me, I don't want to do it, so I'm just going to drop them on the map when we get there. 9 out of 10 times they'll be like, okay. And if that 1 out of 10 times that person's like, no, I don't like it, it's not an issue with you. It might just be an issue with they might not be the person for your table. But when you're setting something up, you should be able to have fun setting it up. If it's stressful and just work, then it's going to not be fun when you run it.
And kind of riffing off of that, something I'm recommending, because a lot of people are now for the first time bringing their play groups, online, and so that experience is happening. And something I keep telling people is, don't feel like you have to do it alone. Your group wants your game to succeed online, so why don't you come at it like a team? Like, have one person who learns this function on Roll20, have one person who sends out, and pays for the Zoom account, have one person, who pulls up your monster stats or picks your music. Do it together as a team to build this, because you all understand that things are changing and things are different, and you're learning together as a group. So assigning those functions to other people and taking that like burden of supreme responsibility off of one person is such a great idea. And also, you'll be better as a gaming group for it. Whenever you accomplish anything together, that's a very meaningful experience to have.
All right, two of you, who wants to go?
Drink waters and take a break after an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Please. Do it. Drink water, take a break after an hour and a half, and never forget that you're playing a game with your friends.
Please. Please. All right, Dave, as you drink water. Well, or something. Not gonna judge.
Yeah, I'd already finished, but I still did, as like a visual bit, drink water.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you.
That's
I don't
good.
know why I do those theatrically. I don't know. Too much drama as a teenager. Speaking of, actually, that leads nicely into the point I was going to make. A lot of people find D&D and tabletop role-playing games through the big shows online at the moment. And your game is not going to be like that. It's just not. That is a very curated experience with a lot of time and money and people behind the scenes making it be the way that it is. Try and focus, like TK says, on the fact that it's you and your friends playing a game. It doesn't have to be a specific way because you saw a famous GM do something and you want to try and be like them. Just play the game the way that is fun for everyone at the table, really. I think that's that one.
And I would like to, before we go, yes, because these people didn't come here to play with that person. They came here to play with you. And if they care so much about you not being that person, they're not the right ones that wanted to play with you. They wanted to play with a copy of this person. And you are not them. You have value because you are you. I feel very passionate about that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, I agree so much on all of this. Like, you can tell stories no one else can. You and your friends will create stories that no one else can create. And that's amazing. So, you should do it. And not get COVID-19 at the same time. It's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be safe.
Yes, please.
100% contactless delivery.
Yes. For real.
As soon as you create a new login on roll20.net, sign up, and we'll scream your password to you. We will whisper your game name into the void, and we'll mail out tiny moths that carry the invitations to the games to your friends.
Yes, that's
Wow.
exactly what our customer service does.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Oh dear.
COVID free.
Where do I sign up for this service?
It's too
Oh,
late.
tiny moths.
It's
No!
a new signee promotion that we're doing. You're already signed up.
Oh wow.
No void screams for you.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I would love for you to all do your outros and make sure people know where to find you and find the cool things that you're doing. So, how about we just go in the original order? So, TK, you can kick us off.
All right, I'm too tired for dramatics right now, so it's just me. It's just TK. I write spooky stories on the internet. If you like spooky stories, then you can read them on my website for free, tkjwrites.com, or you can follow me on Twitter, TK Joins the Fray. I don't talk about much spooky stuff there. It's mostly Roll20 and energy drinks, I guess. I don't know what I do these days. But yeah. Hang out with me on Tuesday nights / Wednesday mornings for the late night show, Mythic Odysseys of Theros with Indoor Recess. It's not safe for work, but you shouldn't be at work anyway and watching Twitch. But if you are, I mean, turn it on. Who's going to stop you? I'm not your dad. That's it. That's all I got. Goodbye forever.
What is it in The Simpsons? I'm just a sign, not a cop.
B, where can people find you?
Hello. Where can they find me? Sometimes screaming into the void, but typically that's just Twitter. So at B_Zelda. I'm on Instagram if you add an extra underscore to my name. I run games professionally. If you ever want to sit at my table, I run Bluebeard's Bride and Root, typically. Root is really cute, though. I love it. What else? I'm in a podcast, Broadswords, All Women Non-Binary D&D podcast. I stream on Twitch, and yeah, I'm just your general non-binary goblin that exists in this space.
Celeste?
Yeah, hey folks, I have been and will continue to be Celeste Conowich. If you want to check out what I'm up to, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @cconowich, so you can see what I'm publishing, what I'm streaming. You can hire me for consultations there for your TTRPG shows, or to run games for you. Burn Bright, anyone? Everyone should play it. And of course, you can find me on Wednesdays streaming on the Venture Maidens channel if you like Dungeons and Dragons, and you can find me weekly here on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Pacific time, streaming Burn Bright if you like space. For everything else, if you want space, if you want any more knowledge about what I do, just check out my website, celesteconowich.com.
And Gabe, where can people find you and your stuff?
Hi, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and pretty much anywhere else on the internet at Gabe James Games, which is a mouthful, and I didn't think of that when I picked the name. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, well, one of the Kickstarters I'm working on hit a goal, so now I get to write about giant mechs. So that's exciting. Working on a bunch of projects. I am hoping to soon have more fingers than NDAs, but I give it like a few months. But you can find more about I have a Goblin dating sim coming out. I have a couple more content written for 5e involving a weather system. So a bunch of strange random things.
Well, and you do have something coming out on Roll20 soon.
That's
too.
true. Very soon that I'm very excited about.
That Dave and TK, you would also be excited about, since you two used the class modifier module on your streams.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
It's awesome. Go check that out.
Excellent. Yes.
Yes. Dave, where can people find you?
Okay, my name is Dave_Theodore_human. It's not my real middle name or last name. It's not even what the stands for. And I do a show on the D&D channel for Roll20 on Mondays at 1 p.m. And apart from that, you can follow the Twitter at Dave_the_human, but I'm still on vacation from it because
it's the worst.
Yeah, it's awful. It's an awful
really,
time
you
to
don't
be
need
on
a
Twitter.
qualifier for that. It's like it's just the worst.
Yeah.
We all, I think, only use Twitter because that's how we do work. Otherwise, we wouldn't.
It's true.
Literally, that is how I do work. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm Bunny. I'm Winged Lioness. You don't have to worry about me because I'm just a Roll20 community manager. So you can follow Roll20 at Roll20 app on like everything, not just Roll20, Roll20 app, please, because otherwise we don't see if you try to tag us. Yeah, but thank you so much for coming by the virtual GMing on Roll20 panel. We're gonna have this up on the VOD probably later today because I'm probably gonna do it right away. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming, and have an awesome rest of your Saturday.
Thank you.